Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Rob, the Cheap Comic Collector, and this is episode number 96. We're doing another one of my reading episode today. We're going to be looking at these books. But before we do that, take a look at this over here. That's my giveaway pile. It has grown tremendously. Today I've been sorting through some of the unsorted boxes and adding them to the boxes that were alphabetized, and I came up with this entire another stack of books, and that's only going through the A through F books. I still have G through Z to go, so I have way more doubles than I thought I did. So yeah, starting with the 100th episode, we're going to start giving stuff away, so tune in for that. That's coming up in a few days. And that's that. I knew I had a lot of doubles in those boxes, but I had no idea I had that many. So anyway, here we go. Let's me stand up here so we can get a good look. And I decided to go ahead and read that New Wave number 2 since I had read the number 1 not too long ago. And this is number 2 of the New Wave from Eclipse Comics. It was from 1986. And I really liked the first issue and not so much the second issue. I had a hard time kind of keeping track of what was going on in this issue. This is a story by Sean Deming and Mindy Newell. Script by Mindy Newell. Pencils by Lee Weeks. Inks by Ty Templeton. And so this second issue was a little bit stranger. Apparently, most of the people that I thought were going to get powers after that first issue are now dead from the explosion. And there's just a few of them left. You got the head guy that's trying to manipulate everybody, and the this guy that he kind of tricks into helping him, and then this lady who does help him trick this guy, but reluctantly. And it was kind of hard to follow what was going on. The alien from the other dimension is still around. He's just hanging out in outer space. And then it's a lot of talking. And then you get these characters introduced. This boy here has some kind of telekinetic power. This girl has some kind of powers. And it's not real clear on what's happening. So they basically reluctantly go to work for the corporate guy that's been manipulating everything. And then the end of the issue, the alien decides he wants to go home and he's gonna smash into their space station again, which, I guess they're all on a space station. I didn't realize that until the end panels because it looked like they didn't do anything to establish that. Because here it looks like they're outside. There's trees, there's houses. But then it jumps to this. And it was confusing to see where they were, who they were, what was going on. Wasn't nearly as well plotted as the first issue. So hit or miss there. I really liked the first issue, and then the second issue, just not so much. It was hard to figure out. So I couldn't just casually read it. And then we have Richie Rich, number 77 from 1969. Clever little cover gag there with the fortune teller seeing money in Richie's future, of course. Inside cover is just an ad for various Harvey comics. And there's a couple odd ones here in the corner. You got Bunny and the Cow Sills. And everything else is what you expect. Sad Sack, Casper, Richie Rich, and so forth. Little Audrey. And the first one-page gag here is just kind of silly. They got a robot gardener that runs on gold. He eats gold for energy. And it's just kind of a silly little gag. And then the stories in here were really familiar to me. I may have already reviewed these. They were reprinted in a copy of Richie Rick's Success Stories. I mean, I'm not going to go back and see if I've done these or not, but either that or I just read this when I got the Richie Rich comics because it was the first one in the pile of those entire box of Richie Rich that I had gotten. So I may have just read it already because I remember the main stories, but I don't remember the little one-pagers. So I may have just remembered them from the reprint. I'm not sure. Maybe I reviewed the reprint at one point, which is a shame because there's so many Richie Rich books. It would kind of stinks if I'm going over the same stories again. But anyway, this is a Richie Rich in Generous Mom. And some con men give Richie's mom a mirror that hypnotizes her into being extremely charitable. So she's giving away all of her money and jewels and so on and so forth, and ordering the staff to help her and being kind of mean about it. And it continues. Richie gets suspicious, so he stows away on the truck and goes to the hideout of the bad guys. And then we have a couple more one-pagers here. In this first one, Richie is dreaming that he's allergic to money. And then Cadbury is showing off how he can throw his hat and make it come back to him like a boomerang. And it ends up on an ostrich in the zoo back behind the house. Apparently they have an ostrich zoo back behind the house. I don't know. And then the main story continues with Richie stowed away on the truck. He figures out that they're crooks. He goes back, he stows away again and gets back home and breaks the mirror, which ends the spell on the mom. And then they go back and capture the crooks. So, and then, but his mom wants to still give money away, so because she's charitable. And then we have in the centerfold. It always amazes me that some of these they waste the centerfolds on ads like this, but I suppose the advertisers paid for it. You have Dinky Toys and Storykins. And apparently you could collect seals from Post Cereals and send in for free toy cars or dolls. So that's cool. And then another one of those juggling house ads from Harvey Comics. This one's in color. That's pretty. And I have a friend who is a juggler who once asked me to find him. He found a comic of Donald Duck that was juggling. He asked me, because he knew I collected comics, if there were other juggling covers. And I told him, well, yeah, there probably is, but I don't know how to find them. But so this is a neat ad. Anyway, let's see. The next story is Little Dot, with Little Lotta as the sidekick, and they're playing hide and seek, and Lotta tricks Dot into exposing where she's hiding by saying, "Oh, look at the pretty dot," basically. And then it goes on where Lotta keeps noticing dots, and so Dot comes running every time she says something about a dot out loud, and then it ends on a gag. It's kind of funny. And let's see, you got a text story, Richie Rich and the Secret of the Desk. Haven't read it. Got the advertising strips, Casper, for Casper Comics, and that you can see him on TV, and Sad Sack. One of the Facebook groups that I belong to recently posted a photo of the creator of Sad Sack, George Baker. And I always wondered why Sad Sack was drawn the way he is. And I thought it was funny because it turns out that George Baker actually pretty much looks like this. It's kind of a self-caricature. He actually has a huge nose that he kind of looks like him. So that answered that question that I've wondered all my life. And so then we have a little Lotta backup. She is, let's see, there's an aunt and uncle that are supposed to be coming to visit Lotta, and a con man overhears that, and so him and his Mal come and replace them. And of course, Lotta's super strength kind of scares them off, and they end up being arrested. And then the real aunt and uncle show up, and that's the end of that story. And that was actually the end of the issue. So, surprised there wasn't more Richie Rich in there, actually. But pretty good issue. Like I said, I've read it recently, so yeah, I could read it again. It was rereadable. And and then next up we have Marvel 2-in-1 1976, number 16. Still only 25 cents. We got Thing and Ka-Zar. Ka-Zar? Yeah, Ka-Zar, that's how I've always pronounced it. And this was a pretty good issue. It starts with the Thing jumping out of an airplane. He's going to go and set up some stuff for Reed Richards, some kind of monitoring equipment to figure out where some volcanic earthquake type activity is happening. It's written by Bill Mantlo, artist by Ron Wilson, Dan Adkins on inks. Focus. There you go. And so the Fantastic Four makes a brief appearance as they flash back to why the Thing is jumping out of an airplane. And some nice dinosaurs because he's jumping into the savage land. And so he's got to fight off a dinosaur or two. There's one. And of course, Ka-Zar shows up to help. And here's a superhero merchandise ad. So you got Spider-Man on the motorcycle. I always wanted one of those. And I did have the Evel Knievel one, but I was more into Spider-Man. And you got this weird looking bike horn. And of course the plastic Marvel cups that they had back then, which were always looked pretty cool in the ads, and the Mego dolls. And anyway, back to the story. Ka-Zar shows up and helps kill the dinosaur, or I think they killed him. Maybe they just knocked him unconscious or something. But and he's going to set up the equipment, and then these guys show up. Apparently, they have something to do with what's going on. I don't remember the details. I was real sleepy while I was reading this, and I kept nodding off and then waking back up and reading a few more pages and then nodding off again. So anyway, it's the typical, fight. Nothing earth-shattering happening. This is a cool one-page spread here of Ka-Zar and Thing after they got captured. And Let's see, you got the Marvel bullpens, news notes, nifty narration, and nutty nonsense, not for the narrow-minded. And then you got the Spider-Man Twinkies ad, which was brilliant marketing, by the way. I mean, who didn't read these ads while they were reading the comic? Because it's just another comic to read, right? Just whoever thought those ads up it was just brilliant marketing. And so yeah, it ends rather abruptly with they get loose and they fight the bad guys, and the main bad guys falls into a lava pit, and remains to be seen whether he returns or not. And then there's a blurb for the next issue featuring Spider-Man and things. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. I wish I had read it when I wasn't quite so tired. And let's see. Next up, the next mini-series of Convergence. I'm still working my way through those. This is Convergence Green Lantern Parallax. And didn't enjoy this one quite as much. I haven't enjoyed the whole Parallax thing. If ever it's popped up in the comics, it just seems so out of character for Hal Jordan that I have a hard time buying into it. The artwork is fantastic. You got this is Hal Jordan. He's basically imprisoned himself because when the dome dropped and he lost his powers, he's no longer Parallax. He's Hal Jordan again, but he remembers everything he did. He knows he murdered the entire Green Lantern Corps, so he's unhappy. Thinks he deserves to be in jail, even though everybody else is saying, no, that was Parallax, that wasn't you, and so on and so forth. And then, let's see, we got Tony Bedaro as the writer, Ron Wagner on pencils, Bill Reinhold as the inker. And it was okay. It was a decent story. The first issue is basically Kyle Rayner going to visit Hal Jordan in the jail, and they kind of go over the whole history of Parallax in the explanations, and then Kyle Rayner leaves and is thinking about his life and what's life's like under the dome, and then the thing happens where the challenge comes down by the bad guy he lifts the dome, they get their powers back, and then they have to fight. Kyle Rayner's supposed to fight this lady here, who is Princess Fern from what's the name of the place? Electropolis, and that is the home of, if you remember on Crisis on Infinite Earths, there was Lady Quark and the other guy, I forget his name. I think he died pretty early, but Lady Quark is this is the daughter of Lady Quark from that planet, or that timeline. So anyway, so Kyle Rayner gets his powers back, and Hal Jordan becomes Parallax again, so he's being a jerk again. Decides that he needs to go attack this other city, and then Kyle tries to stop him, and then Princess Fern shows up and attacks their town, and so forth. And then there of course there's a fight, and then and Parallax, it ends with Parallax going to destroy the other city, the Electropolis. So that was the first issue. Second issue, like I said, decent art. Still the same creative team on the second issue, of course. And we'll just go through the art. I don't want to spoil stories too much. But I forget what happens. Parallax, it kind of ends rather oddly, like a lot of these do, or doesn't quite make sense at the end when they decide they're gonna do what they're gonna do. But it was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as some of them, but it wasn't as good as some of them either. And then the second issues, I haven't been showing these, but the second issues all have previews of some new series that they were starting after Convergence. So this one's for Lobo. I haven't read these because I'm thinking that they're, that it's just part of the comic that came out, and I don't want to read that many pages in a preview. I want to read the actual comic. So I haven't read those, but anyway, that's what we were looking at today. And favorite, honestly, I'd have to say Marvel 2-in-1, I guess, and then Richie Rich. Even though I had read the Richie Rich stories recently, it was the most fun of the four. And the Marvel 2-in-1, it kind of bogged down a little bit when it got to the fight with the bad guy and everything. Not a whole lot of story there, just a fight. So, but that was probably my favorite. If I hadn't read Richie Rich recently, maybe that would have been my favorite. So it probably tied between those two, which one I like the best. But anyway, that's it for today. Tomorrow's episode, I got this box in the mail, and it's a big box. I'll show you. Put a comic book next to it so you can see how big it is. And I'm really excited to show you what's in that box tomorrow. We're going to open it together and take a look at it. I'm really, really excited for what's inside. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.